Welcome to Connecting the Dots, the Longevity Playbook. In this episode, I'm joined by Jon Nasta from Cryotech Nordics to explore where recovery, performance, and longevity meet. We talk about cryotherapy, red light therapy, hyperbaric oxygen, magnetic muscle stimulation, and why these tools are moving from elite sport into everyday health. Jon also shares how a career built in fitness, retention, and customer experience led him into the world of science-backed recovery. Let's connect the dots. Welcome to this week's episode of Connecting the Dots. I am very pleased to have a wonderful guest with me, Jon Nasta from Cryotech Nordics. Welcome, Jon. Let's get started by connecting the dots. So where did your career begin and how did that path lead you to Cryotech Nordics?
Well, thank you for having me. First of all, pleasure to be here. Heard so many wonderful things about this show. So I'm absolutely delighted to be asked to join you. So where did I start out? I really started out by being blessed. I think like many people in the health and fitness industry, I was reasonably good at sport and I had a PE teacher who took an interest in me. He would drive me to basketball matches. He'd drive me around to tennis matches. And from there, I ended up being quite successful. I played national team tennis until I was 44, played basketball for Birmingham. And I'd love to tell you my career failed to take off in terms of earning a living from sport because I got an injury, but I just wasn't good enough, okay? But it did teach me a lot about the communities you get and the friendships you get from sport. And then through there, I was lucky enough to do a degree in sports science. And then I guess like many people, I fell into sales world and I was lucky to get my first job with a big blue chip company. They wouldn't let you speak to customers until you've had 3 weeks of training. And then I won't bore you with a big thing that happened in my life, but about the age of 30, I decided I needed to do some work in a industry that I was interested in again. And I fell into selling fitness equipment.
Okay. On
the interview, I remember asking the managing director what his average order value was, how many calls you need to do to get a meeting, how many meetings you need to do to get an order, what was the average order value. And he was like, I don't know, Jon. And I thought, I could do quite well in this industry. And then heavily involved in setting up Matrix in the UK. And then I came across some software in the States that effectively monitored how often people went to the gym and sent messages to people in the gyms based on their attendance patterns, okay? And that was my kind of eureka moment. I remember being at the Cybex show when I was told we got the top 200 minds of the international fitness industry here, and they had a breakout session on retention. And I was asking afterwards, we had 2 hours of the greatest minds in the industry, so obviously we solved the retention problem. But I asked the operator of the biggest club chain in the UK at the time afterwards, what's your budget for retention? And they were like, we haven't got one. And then I was like, well, who's in charge of retention in your clubs? And they were like, we probably should put someone in charge. And then I was like, I remember meeting those retention software guys. So I got the rights to that, set up on my own, lived off baked potatoes for 2 years. But we ended up with 2,000 clubs in the world using the system. And I got so much data around attendance patterns and what triggers people need to attend clubs. And I started being invited to go and talk on the international circuit and help people with customer experience. During that time, a client of ours from a club chain called Exercise for Less convinced me to join their board. And we grew that chain from 6 clubs to 52 clubs with 350,000 members. That was bought by JD Gyms. And then the final piece of the story is being an aging sportsman. My body's in pieces. I've had major knee surgeries. I've just had this shoulder rebuilt. About 5 years ago, I started using oxygen therapy. I was on a plane and moaning about my knees hurting. The guy next to me happened to be an actor. He'd been playing the lead in Matilda for 12 months on Broadway. And he said, we were going to LA. He said, go to Remedy Place, use my name and go in the oxygen chamber. He said, my wife uses it all the time. She's a dancer. It's amazing. And I thought, well, I'll give it a go. I was very skeptical. I came out of that oxygen chamber and all my aches and pains were gone. So the next morning I was in Barry's. Morning after that I did Orange Theory. I went to try the new Nike studio the morning after that. And then on the 4th day, the aches and pains were back. And I thought, wow, I would pay for that, and I would go once a week and do that for the difference it's making in my life. And then last September, I was doing the keynote for the Finnish Fitness Association annual do, where I met the guys from CTS. So I saw all the oxygen chamber, red light therapy bed, the cryotherapy full cabin, and I was like, I'm definitely going to be using that while I'm on this conference. Mm-hmm. And they were really nice people, and they invited me back in December to talk about how they could get into the health and fitness world, the gyms. They're getting a lot of inquiries from gyms. Could I help them? I went for a day, ended up spending 2 weeks with them. And
in December in Finland.
It was only -30.
Only minus.
But with all the snow, it's magical. It's really nice. They also said they thought that there was space for a good studio lounge offering, a franchise style, where people could get an out-the-box solution, be it to put into a space in a fitness club or to stand alone as their own lounge. And I just happened to have been working on a business plan for this, which I showed them, and they were like, could you help us with this too? And their values and the way they operated, everything was right for me. I always think that 80% of a partnership isn't just 80% is your values and the people and how you get along, and 20% is the product and what you're doing with it. So we came to an agreement, and last weekend we launched the R&R Studio Lounge at the International Franchise Show. Before we actually launched it, a few people had been in Helsinki looking to buy equipment. They'd seen our plans, and they've agreed to open their own R&R lounge. We've got one opening in Canterbury in a couple of weeks. They're already looking at a second site. And it looks like from this franchise show, we've got super strong interest in the US and a couple of European territories already. So we're absolutely delighted with the response. And I think it's all down to the fact you've got this science-backed finished technology, and we can actually explain easily what we're doing. We manufacture things ourselves, and there's so many elite sports clubs using the kit. There's Olympic associations using the kit, and we're not paying them to use the kit. They've come to us because the evidence is all there about how it's really helping with optimizing performance. So that's the short story.
So, I mean, you got here by looking for the solution yourself, and then found it in your professional life as well. That's really cool. And actually, when you were talking, when you said your story about retention, we've got a career overlap there, because when I was working for Basic Fit, I asked the same question. I'm like, who's focusing on member retention? It was like, there's such a huge opportunity. So I actually started the member retention department in Basic Fit. And like you were looking at it from a third party standpoint, I was looking at it from the member data that we were getting in. It was so fascinating. And that actually, I think, comes from at the core, really caring about people and caring about their results. And that's, again, the red line thread into recovery, right? Is making sure that people can have a better life. And that's the bridge to longevity.
Indeed.
And that was actually the next question that I wanted to get into.
Yeah.
Longevity is a buzzword at the moment, but it is like formally recognized by the World Economic Forum. Yeah. So like, I wanted to have the definition ready so that we could unpack it together. But the World Economic Forum defines longevity as the entire ecosystem of goods, services, economic activity, including health, finance, and employment, designed to support longer, healthier, and more financially secure lives for the population. It emphasizes shifting from simply treating illnesses to proactive, sustained investment and health span and economic participation across all generations. I think that's like they've taken the time to define it. It's more than a buzzword. It's a shift. It's really a shift in our world. So where does Cryotech Nordics, where do they identify themselves in that landscape?
Yeah, I agree. Exactly what you've said. It's a buzzword, but it's mainly a buzzword in the health and fitness industry. Right. For people that have not looked into the definitions and not looked behind to understand why the European economic forums have looked in and tried to define it. So maybe the easiest way I got to understand it was when someone was saying, look, It's about wanting to live a full life and then die, rather than living 60% of your life and then being ill for 40% of your life and then dying. So apparently most people will get to about the age of 64 functioning well, and then they'll spend on average, the next 17 years of their life managing illness. And the reason the economists are interested, obviously, is the huge cost of this. It's obviously going to be way more beneficial to prevent illness than pay for treatments. So where does Cryotech Nordic fit into all of this? Is really insisting on doing our own research and development, building our own equipment, working with scientific partners. We're really lucky that some of the world's leading doctors in this arena, if we want to call it longevity, and I'm with you, I think that's going to change the definition. We don't really know what it means to the consumer yet. They're using CTN equipment for all their studies. We keep seeing studies every month. There's a new study coming out from independent doctors working in this area, and it's peer reviewed. Okay, and I think it's very important to look at it from that aspect. There's lots of people making claims. I don't want to use the wrong expression, but there's a lot of snake oil in this area at the moment.
Absolutely.
So
It's
really
marketing
important.
and nothing else.
And there's obviously within CTN, the business was formed by a family. And at the time, they've had successful businesses. They wanted a new venture they could do as a family. Okay, so it's a really nice story. And they thought they would go into like the beauty clinic area, and they were doing like laser treatments. And very quickly they found that was really crowded market. Being finished, they were like, okay. And cryotherapy's been around since the late 60s, 70s, but they thought this is somewhere we could bring that finished technology and innovation and really improve this arena. And then they came up with their first cryo machines. So that was about 8-9 years ago that the first cryo machines came out. And they've grown from there into this huge organization, selling into 52 countries with some of the world's leading spas using all their equipment. And, some very successful sports teams using the equipment. From a sports perspective, they will talk about performance. From a science doctor's perspective, they're talking about optimization. From the biohackers side of things, they're talking about longevity. And again, going back to the scientific and medicine words, they're talking about recovery. There's a lot of evidence papers coming out now about, pre-op, after-op, improving outcomes, improving recovery periods. And again, that is all driven by the economic side of things. So that's where it's sitting. It's all about, for me, the overriding theme is like science-backed human optimization performance.
And I think the other thing that really stands out for me that you spoke about is like this is a family business, and the family controls the supply chain. And I think this is when you can really like, if they're producing their equipment, they're funding the science behind it. That's something that you can really stand behind. It's not a claim, it's something that's really being built from the foundation. So I think that's really cool to hear and understand. And I had no idea that cryotherapy had started so early. So I'm gonna I'm gonna add that to my list of deep dives later. So tell me a little bit about the recovery studio, because Cryotech Nordics offers way more than than just cryotherapy. There's a whole line and a philosophy behind the line. And I think based on what I've read, the recovery studio sort of tells the story. So tell us the story.
Yeah, thank you. It's a great question, and I'm glad you've done that research. So the R&R lounge studios, restore and recharge. One of the reasons behind the R&R is because you can also have your reset, your recovery. And everyone's got their own R&R, okay? And if you go on to learning resources like the Holo Center, where some of the doctors that have worked with our kit have published papers, there's all sorts of ways you can use this combination of equipment to get the outcome that you're looking for. So being an operator, I want to make it easy for people to understand and use the equipment. And that's the angle we came to when we were creating the R&R lounge. So I don't want you to come in and me have to educate you for 4 weeks about the science behind things. A bit like when people come into a gym, they want to get strong, They want to put on weight, they want to lose weight, they want to get
Feel
fitter.
better. They want to
exactly. But what's your
athletic
main
outcome.
exactly
Yeah.
what's the outcome you want? And when you go to a gym, you can talk about the outcome you want, and I can say to you, oh, Jennifer, you need to do this class because that's going to be the right class for you. Oh, you need to do the yoga class, Jennifer, or you need to do the box fit class, or oh, you should do the Les Mills class, based on the outcomes you're telling me you want. So people coming into, they might want better sleep, they might want to recover from illness, operations, they might want to reset, they might want to recharge, they might want to perform well. So if you read all the studies, there's slightly different ways and combinations you can use the equipment. So for example, to get better sleep, you might want to go to the oxygen chamber for 60 minutes and then use a cryo. Better performance, you might want to use the oxygen chamber 5 days in a row. To get better recovery, you might want to use the oxygen chamber, then the cryo, then the red light bed. And there's all sorts of slightly different lengths of treatments, slightly different combinations and orders and way to do them to achieve the outcomes that you want. So rather than me explaining everything to the person who's just walked into my lounge, I can say, right, this is the membership you need for that outcome. And then,
so there's an intake that happens so that I can get a recommendation and cut through the forest.
And then, sure enough, once you've started the treatments and you've got past your skepticism, which I've been through myself, then you start doing the research. And then there's areas within the member app where you can join different communities based on what you're interested in with like-minded people. And as long as you don't put the permissions for other people to talk with you, you can start to find you might have a sleep community. You might have a optimized performance community. And within there, you can find links to all the studies, which can give you more information on how to use the R&R lounge in a more effective way based on what you're interested in. So I think it's sometimes where we fall down as a health and fitness industry. We're kind of fitness freaks. We're obsessed with the process. And you see, I think the beauty world does this so well. They sell the outcomes of what they're doing, They're not trying to blind you with the science that's gone into what they've done. They're just saying, oh, you want better skin? Slap this over your face, So,
and if you're interested in why it works, you'll do the reading.
Yeah.
There's the too long didn't read group, and there's the I want to know everything group.
Exactly. Yeah. And then our main success for health club operators was really bringing that budget scene into the UK, democratizing fitness memberships and bringing the price levels down. And there's a huge gap in this marketplace to take this from being the domain of rich, famous people, making it available to people in the street to come into the lounge and use the services and get a stronger, healthier nation. And that's very much part of the Cryotech Nordic mission is, makes, happier, healthier people.
So I just wanted to go through what's included in the restore and recharge concept.
Yeah.
Because we've got cryotherapy.
Yes.
And there are people who don't know what cryotherapy is. Can you give an easy definition or explanation of cryotherapy?
Sure. So in the health and fitness industry, everyone's familiar with the cold plunge, which effectively is cold being delivered to your body through water. Cryotherapy is cold being delivered to your body through air. If we want to touch on the science of it, what we're trying to do is create a thermogenic effect. That is where your brain is triggered into the fight or flight. And then you get this huge endorphin, dopamine release, the fight or flight. Okay. To do that, you need to bring the skin temperature down to below 11.3 degrees. And then that nervous system is shocked. The body thinks it's freezing. The blood starts to go to your major organs to protect them. Then once your skin has reached the desired temperature effect, and we're monitoring it in different parts over your body. You can see what's happening in front of you on the screen to different temperatures in your body. It's quite entertaining. And then as soon as you've hit the temperature, the machine will turn off because we've all got different bodies. So one morning it might take me 2 minutes 30 to do a treatment. The next morning it might take me 2 minutes 45. It depends whether I've trained and what I've eaten. And also everybody's got different bodies. So why would we put everybody through the same treatment? It's about getting the thermogenic effect.
Very personal for me, myself, and I.
Absolutely. So once you come out of the machine, your body realizes it's not freezing. The blood goes flying back up to your skin. And then the overall effect, obviously the cold's going to have taken a lot of inflammation out of your body. So you do find a lot of aches and pains go. Most pain comes from inflammation. Mm-hmm. And then with the overall effect, the blood flow improving, you're getting that mitochondrial growth, which is encouraging cell rejuvenation. So that's the very simple way of putting it.
Thank
I can
you.
send you some links to articles after.
Yeah, no, well, I'll include a picture of the machine on the video version of the podcast, and also the link to Cryotech Nordic, so that people can. I mean, your website's beautiful and really well organized and easy to navigate, which not everybody can say. So it made my research easier. But the other thing, so the other thing that's in the recovery studio is muscle stimulation. And now the muscle stimulation and the machine that I see on your website really reminds me of what I see in a lot of aesthetic or cosmetic clinics. Like it's not like, this isn't EMS. This is something
magnetic
else.
Muscle stimulation.
Yeah. And some of the benefits of that, just so it's not confused by the EMS that's known in fitness.
Yeah. So it's a similar effect, okay? But it is used by a lot of beauty clinics and physios, like you say, and it is stimulating muscle contractions. I think it's around 20,000 muscle contractions can be done in.
It's intense.
Yeah, depending on the levels you put it on, it can be intense.
It can be intense.
Yeah, so don't upset the physio who we send to do the training for everybody, because he will put it on your abdominals and turn it up. But then it's got all sorts of different applications. Yeah, so you imagine, if you are injured, it can help you maintain muscle mass while you're recovering. But there is a very popular attachment at the moment is the pelvic floor trainer, which is a huge issue in society at the moment. And luckily, even in the UK, men and women are able to talk about this now. But you really can change people's lives over a 2-3 week course of magnetic muscle stimulation.
And that can be treated with muscle stimulation. That's so important.
Yeah.
Because I think after menopause, more than 60% of women will have pelvic floor dysfunction. And before that, it's 25%. And I know the stats for women, but it's also really prevalent for men. And this is something that keeps people away from physical activity.
It is.
Kind of creates those downstream effects to aging poorly, because there's so much shame around asking for help or talking about the conditions.
Yeah. And it, like I say, it really does change the quality of somebody's life. And all you've got to do is sit down. So, yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. And we can see, when you're at trade shows like you and I've just been at FIBO for the last week, and you demonstrate it to people there, you can just see them going, wow. You've got muscles that effectively have not been stimulated for too long. So how are you going to fire those up again? And if you can show someone a very easy, quick way to do it, you're winning. They're happier, they're healthier, they're living they're able to contribute more to the lives of others around them. And like you say, they're not hiding away, because it is a tough thing to deal with. And, I've seen people do these 3-4 week of courses and the impact it has on their lives. And when they're walking in with a big smile on their face, because they know over the next half hour, their lives are going to improve. You get loads back from that.
Absolutely. And plus you're reconnecting mind muscle, pathways that have been shut down due to poor movement dysfunction. It does a lot. That's really, I think it's probably an undersung hero in this whole kit, because there's so many things that it benefits.
Yeah, and I think that's where we're blessed in the way that you loved our website. We're blessed to have a really, really good head of marketing. She understands the customer journey so important on a website. She does a great job. In the same way, we've got all these boffins who work, I call it the dungeon below, the floor below the main offices in Helsinki. There's a whole team of guys just continually looking for new ways to improve the machines, and then they're testing it in our studios and our lounge in Helsinki, and then we're getting all these new products come through. And the same way, we're blessed. We've got a lady who looks just after beauty clinics, and she's always asking for slightly different attachments for different machines, because then she'll be able to make the sale. And within weeks, the R&D guys have got the attachments that she wants, and they've slightly changed the way they work. And then we get to improve more people's lives. So it's really nice to watch it all working and watch it working so quickly for people. But as you know, with your retention work, it's all about making operational decisions based on the customer
outcomes. Yeah. And that's really cool that the feedback loop is so short, so that you can iterate and and then apply it so quickly. Okay, so let's move on to red light therapy. What does red light therapy look like in the recovery studio? Because there's so many ways and so many machines now for red light therapy.
Yeah, photobiomodulation. Okay, the frequency to put the near and infrared light into the body. You've got all sorts of different machines out there, and most of them are very, very good. Okay, we just know ours is manufactured in Europe, and we know there's a lot of people, just the science guys, they're preferring to do their studies based on our kit, which again is great for us. So the whole idea there is that it's encouraging the body to naturally improve and release more ATP. Okay, so there's a big trend. Quite a few gym goers and lifters are throwing away their pre-workout now, and they're doing a red light session
before.
Yeah. And we know from scientific studies that the optimum amount of time to spend on the red light bed is 12 minutes. So it's quite doable before a workout, quick, effective treatment.
It's like a pre-warm-up.
Absolutely. Yeah. But you imagine going into your gym session with more ATP flowing through your body than not. And again, when I went training with one of the owners, and he was like, try doing red light before you do your workout. And I was like, yeah, fine. I'm in, I'll do it. And all the way through our workout, he's going, you feeling it? And I'm like, not really, to be honest. But then when I looked at my stats from that workout in the evening, I thought, actually, that was one of my better workouts in the last few months. I didn't feel like it at the time, but when I looked at the data, I was like, that's quite good. And then, did it 3 or 4 times that week when I was over there, and I was like, and it consistently, my data was more in the better workouts I'd had than the lower ones. So I was like, okay. And then there's quite a few of the bodybuilders and lifters, they're using it.
Let's not talk about hygiene in gyms. I think that's a rabbit hole.
And the number one thing that women talked about was hygiene. No shocks, right? At the time, it was only the number 3 thing that men talked about. And I was like, guys, we've let ourselves down. This is not good. Men were talking about equipment, And so it was like, but no, I'm glad to say now, over the last 5 years, it's also the number 1 thing for men. So R&D had the eureka moment of, why don't we do an upright red light product? So you're not having to touch anything. So you can just stand upright. And then just to differentiate, make it a bit more fun, there's a vibration plate in there, and you can stick some headphones on and listen to whatever music you want. So it's a better customer experience.
Absolutely. And there's a bunch of, research on the benefits of vibration before workouts as well. So,
Exactly. Yeah. But, we, being honest, we didn't go that far into, we understood that science, but we were just trying to make it a little bit different.
And probably in terms of footprint in the club, when you have something vertical rather than a bed, it's easier to find a spot for it.
Yeah.
Okay. Last but certainly not least, I still have that hat.
Yeah.
So the last component of the I call it the recovery studio, but you're calling it restore and recharge. I want to make sure I get the terminology right. Is the thing that got you started in your recovery journey, and that was the hyperbaric oxygen, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because, oxygen chamber makes sense, but it's still, it's like, why do we need it? I'm breathing air now. Help me out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, one, it makes you feel really good.
Okay.
But what we're doing is, and when you really go down the rabbit hole, people talk about, high pressure, mild pressure. And again, there's a lot of studies now around what's better. And it's turning out that the mild is in many cases better than, depending on what the outcomes you want, can be better than the high. But effectively, all we're doing is creating an environment where your blood can carry more oxygen. Okay. So the benefits, obviously, you'll understand as a sports person, the benefits to having more oxygen in your system. It's been going on for years in the sports world. But obviously, the long-term effects of this is that it's encouraging and making it easier for your body to have cell repair. So more often than not, the best thing to do before using red light, if you've got the time, you're going to get more from your red light session if you use the oxygen chamber first. You're going to get more from a cryo session if you use the oxygen chamber first. So it's encouraging quicker and better cell rejuvenation within your body. So if you really want to go into it, you will get a benefit from a 1-hour session. But if you really want to build up the effects, you can do 5 days in a row and then kind of top up every few days, once a week, once or twice a week. that's how you need to do it. I'll send you another link to a study on that.
Very, very interesting. And it's also interesting the order that you need to do it in to get the best effects. Like, of course, like there's good, better, best with everything, but it's always good to know, what if one kind of gives you a magnified result of the next things that you do, then it's always great to plan for that.
Cold plunge, I don't mind it, but there's some of the reasons we train is to inflame the muscles, and some of the benefits of that training are from inflaming your muscles and causing a bit of muscle damage. So why immediately after training go and do a cold plunge? You're going to take away some of the effects you've just put yourself through an hour's torture and sweating for. And that again probably goes full loop back to what we were talking about at the start. Quite often as an industry, we grasp something, claim to be experts about it, and don't bring in the right people to explain that what are the outcomes you want to get from this.
Yeah. And I'm going to go a different direction with the cold plunge. I've done a recovery studio tour, and I asked the operators with cold plunges how often they changed the water. It's not often, and that's so gross.
Agreed. Do you want to share your bath with 20 other people? I don't know.
No thanks.
So, yeah.
No, and that's why the cryotherapy really appeals to me more, just because I'm not getting in, other people's old water or other people's cold water.
Yeah.
So moving to the broader product ecosystem for Cryotech Nordics, outside of restore and recharge, there's a whole lot that you already offer. Can you talk a little bit more about maybe the things that we haven't touched on in the R&R concept?
Yeah, well, I think we've done it. We've done the red light, we've done the oxygen chamber, we've done the cryo, we've done what we call the X-tone, the magnetic muscle stimulation. And the only thing left is what we call an X-cryo, which allows you to target specific parts of the body with cold treatments. Okay. So I don't know if you saw everyone at the FIBO, but everyone's desperately asking us if they can use our cryofacial mask. It looks, if you see people looking like they've just won a BAFTA, holding a BAFTA award in front of their face. So that's a 2-minute treatment, blue lights to help generate natural collagen, and then the cold comes through, just takes the inflammation out of your skin. And again, exactly like before, after you remove the cold, the blood flow comes back and it just encourages the mitochondrial growth, and the collagen obviously makes your skin beautiful. Okay. But that machine again.
Can you send one to my house? Like,
sure.
This sounds like I need it in my everyday life.
Just drop the address in the chat and we'll get one delivered afterwards.
It's like Rebel Lambton. Okay, but I also saw boots on the website, like the compression boots, and I saw the gun, like the compression gun.
Yeah, those are just additional products that we provide for people just to finish off if they like to do that sort of thing. That's fine. They're just natural fit to what we do. We don't make those. We brand those. We found good ones and we brand them.
So like it's so complete, and I like how everything kind of amplifies the other treatment. So it's like a magnification as you complete the whole suite of products, you just get better and better and better. Like, because you're studying this, I'm sure you have like case studies and testimonials. Do you have like one or two that really impressed you that you want to share?
Well, I can share some studies that have come across my desk recently that you probably wouldn't expect. So there's a doctor in Italy who does a lot of studies using the red light and oxygen chambers. There was one I saw a couple of weeks ago, peer-reviewed, obese women over the age of 50, I think, who'd had one 12-minute red light bed session. They improved their grip strength by 13% and their resting metabolic rate by 9% for a few hours after the session. That's and great. My face was exactly like yours when I read it. I was like, what on earth was that? And then you just, this peer-reviewed. It's been through the testing processes. It's absolutely crazy. But then on another scale, there was a chap who came to our booth at FIBO, really interesting, really nice guy. And we'll quite often say, if you want to understand it, have you got any aches and pains at the moment? And he was like, yeah, I've had a frozen shoulder for 2 years. So we got our physio to take him and sit him down with the spot cryo machine. And he did literally 3 minutes of work on his shoulder. So before the treatment, the guy could only get his shoulder up like this. And then Riku finishes the treatment. He says, "Go on, how far can you get now?" And he's like, "Oh, I won't be able to go any further. I won't be able to get any further." And then he's like, his face, he was like, "What have you done?" Yeah, what? You know, he'd spent a fortune on treatments in various places for the last 2 years. Now, obviously, he's not totally fixed.
No.
But now
he's improved.
Yeah. So if you imagine you're in that scenario and you do 3 minutes of this before you go and do your physio session for your shoulder, you're going to make your overall recovery time a lot quicker. And obviously, we just took a lot of pain away from him as well. So instantly he was like, I've not got the pain. And, you know, when people are living with pain, it just wears you down.
It does.
Yeah.
It erodes your energy. I think so. The grip strength thing is a huge thing, because grip strength is one of those things that helps, you know, forecast longevity.
Yeah.
Like that's one of the things that you want to work on. So that's
right.
phenomenal. And frozen shoulder, like that's a midlife problem for both men and women, but it is known as a menopausal symptom. So I think that's really interesting. It's a target group. A lot of women in menopause will suffer from frozen shoulder, and it's just kind of like inexplicable, hard to treat, super frustrating at a period of time where, you know, you're really trying to preserve your physical activity so that you can preserve your muscle.
Yeah, exactly. Maintaining muscle mass is the big one for both sexes, isn't it?
And feeling good and recovering from, you know, activities that are promoting muscle growth, that's also part of the equation.
That's right. Exactly right. So we're not saying you don't need the gym if you use R&R, but we're saying there is a market of people who go to the gym in the old Amazon style. People who use gyms will also use R&R.
But also people who may not use gyms may start with R&R in their health journey and then get motivated to do physical activity. I think it's another entry point for a group of people that gym operators have just not been able to successfully target.
Correct. And anything we can do to expand the market is always good. And when I first started doing my research, and there's lots of entrepreneurs who've got CTN equipment and they've got successful studios, and they thought they'd be treating lots of sports people, gym goers, but they're like 20% of the marketplace. And like I said, the other 20, you know, there's another 20% who are recovering from an illness, surgery. Then you've got, you know, there is that growing kind of biohacker people, and they're just going to find you, and they're probably going to stand and talk to you for hours about the intricacies of everything that's going on. Then there's people, you know, busy professional people who just want to optimize their day, you know? So there's so many different groups of people, and that's why it's important to be talking about the outcomes and build. I mean, everyone talks with their businesses about, I want to build a community. Well, there's communities there. We just want to make a space that the community can come to and use.
I think that's the best way to put it. It's like, really, when you try to manufacture a community, it feels manufactured. But if you create a space for people, like-minded people, to find each other and connect, then that organically builds community, which is so much stronger and more effective.
I really agree.
So, like, who's the ideal operator for the R&R concept, or for adding any of these components into their gym? Like, is there a profile or a segment that works better than others?
I think we were talking earlier, and there's a couple of ingredients to make the ideal operator in terms of the gym world, club world. And I've got even more clarity on this after meetings at FIBO. And yes, so first off, I think we spoke earlier, like, if you're going to have a successful partnership, you need to deal with people who've got the same values, acting the same way, treat people the same way. You know, that's 80% of the ideal partner for us. Then they've got to recognize the importance of the science-backed, research-driven, you know, made by finished technology. Mm-hmm. But also the standout meetings I had, there was a couple of operators, I won't mention them because we've not agreed a partnership yet, but they really impressed me because One of the most important ingredients for them is the education for their people and the support in educating their people, and not just on installation or after installation, but how are we going to keep a flow of education in this? It's a pretty new area. There's, I think it's a bit like gut health a few years ago. Everybody knew there was something in it. And now people have looked at it so much, we're beginning to recognize actually there's not just something in it, there's loads in it. Yeah. And then I think we're at the stage where people are going, yeah, there's definitely something in this red light, cryo, oxygen treatments. And we've got some science-backed evidence, but there's so much being produced, week in, week out. So how are we going to maintain these guys? Well, how are you going to maintain that flow of education for our people? And that was the standout question I had at FIBO. And I was just super impressed that there was a club operator in the UK who was really, really passionate about their people, because that's going to make a better customer experience for the people using it. We are building learning management systems with different learning pathways depending on what people are interested in at the moment. But it was really nice to just hear a fitness operator, health club, really nice one, by the way. And they've got more than one, but that was one of the key things they wanted to know about. That's it. 80%, I want people who are people like us, so we can enjoy what we're doing, enjoy the day, and know people are going to be making decisions with a similar set of values that we have. And I want them to be people who are interested in the education, but without complicate it. It's interest in the education so that they can deliver based on the outcomes that their members want.
Committed to it.
Yeah.
I think what's really funny is, industry icon Emma Berry was walking around interviewing people on the trends, what they're seeing, how they felt about longevity. Is longevity a buzzword? And like you said at the beginning of the podcast, a lot of people were like, this is a trend. This is a side piece. But I really believe, and it's my disruptive thought, I believe that longevity appeals to way more people than just fitness. It's a broader market. It's defined by the World Economic Forum. It's growing exponentially, like crazy. And what's interesting to me is longevity is fundamentally lifestyle medicine. It's like all of the wheels of all of the spokes on the wheel, where fitness is one spoke of the wheel. I think if fitness took a broader look at longevity and understood its place in it and its relationship with the consumer, its piece of the pie, they could design their solutions to be more user-friendly, effective. But because fitness thinks that they're the center of the wheel and not a spoke in the wheel, this is where we often stumble. So I do feel like longevity is going to eat fitness eventually, because fitness is a piece of that pie.
I hope that doesn't happen, Jennifer, but I think your description's brilliant, and I'm going to be stealing that. Thank you very much.
Take it.
I think then it's another thing I like about the guys at Cryotech Nordic. They don't think they're everything to everybody. They understand where they fit in the ecosystem and that they're a part of the ecosystem. They're not saying we're better than gyms or we're worse than gyms. They just understand that we're a part of the offer that's important to the overall optimization of people's lifestyles.
It's another piece of the pie to add to broaden your ecosystem for the consumer.
Yeah, exactly. And if our way is not for you, that's fine. There's other ways you can improve your longevity.
100%. Do you have any dream partners that you'd like to collaborate with?
We are lucky to have a lot of elite clubs, sports people, and more recently, it's kind of crazy the amount of performing artists getting in touch and buying the products, taking them on tour. Dream partners, I think, like I said, it's in terms of B2B, it's definitely people who are interested in raising their people up, educating their people so they can deliver the better experience for the customers. We know the more successful lounges, studios that deliver this aren't paying people minimum wage, aren't making them pay a fee to come and stroll the studio floor and try and sell other services. Organizations that look after people. And I can't drop the names of some of these famous people, but trust me, I'm dealing with some of my dream clients We had,
Okay, so you've got they're happening right now. That's fantastic.
2 years ago, 50 Cent strolled into the head office in Helsinki. He was on tour and he'd looked for a place to go and get his cryo and his red light. All his entourage, nobody knew who he was.
I love Finland.
And then it was only apparently someone came back into the office just as he was leaving and they're like, it's 50. And then everyone's like, oh yeah, we'll get a picture. But apparently he was just like super nice guy, really nice. But there are people like that in touch with us every week, and it's kind of crazy, you know. They're, you know, how much is that? Oh, where do I send the money? When can you get it to me? I want it now.
That's excellent.
So it's super interesting, and obviously with those sort of people showing an interest. I don't know if you saw. I'm sure you're a massive football fan. The head coach for England, Thomas Tuchel, a few weeks ago said that he wanted all of the England team to have an oxygen cabin, red light bed, and cryo chamber in their houses. So if anyone's got his number, please let me know.
Yeah. That's a call to action.
And that was quoted in one of the big newspapers, and I was just like, yeah. I wasn't that surprised because we do quite a lot of the top football clubs. And it's funny, you put the trilogy of treatments into the training ground, and within weeks there's agents and wives phoning up saying, can we have this for our house? So
yeah, this is I have heard that in the recovery world, it's taking off with the professional athletes teams, and then a lot of the athletes are bringing it into their house as well because they can.
But it's we've got a guy who just deals with professional football clubs, a former player, and he says they will never, the club doctor won't talk about recovery. It's about performance. And again, this is where I think we all need to learn so much more about. It's not recovery, longevity, that's why the whole concept of R&R is, well, what is it to you? It might be recovery for some people. For us, other people, it might be performance. And if you use the treatments in the right way, then you can get the outcomes that you want. But if you're talking about optimal performance, then the head doctors are interested. If you're talking about recovery, they're glazing over and they're not interested.
Yeah, because at the end, the athletes are paid on their performance, right? Like that's the expectation.
Yeah, exactly.
So thank you so much for very patiently walking us through like the whole suite of equipment and explaining in human terms all of the different aspects of longevity treatments and their outcomes. I think that people really appreciate it because things have moved so quickly. There's almost not a chance to ask questions and this expectation that you understand all of the vocabulary. So I'm so happy that we had the opportunity to walk through that. But thank you so much, Jon, and I'm really happy to have learned about Cryotech Nordics. We'll add all of the contact information in the description of the podcast. But this has been absolutely brilliant.
The pleasure's been mine, Jennifer. Thank you very much for such a great conversation. And don't forget to let me know the address for your cryo.
You betcha.
Thanks for listening to Connecting the Dots. If today's conversation gave you something to think about, share it with someone who'd enjoy it too. You can find all of our episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And if you follow the show, leave a rating. It helps more people discover our work. Until next time, keep connecting the dots and keep building the future you want to see.